Welcome to Breaking Sales, a podcast dedicated to helping you have tough, meaningful, and rewarding conversations with your prospects and clients. In meaningful, what we mean is these are the conversations you truly feel like you are the prospect or client's conversational peer. There's no anxiousness or uncertainty holding you back. You feel a sense of calm and confidence in asking the tough questions. You're not thrown off by the bad news, and you expect the prospect to think about and invest into the conversation as much as you do. On Breaking Sales, we use the filter of psychology and innate human behavior to deconstruct the many misleading sales approaches that actually work against your efforts to build trust and close the business. Let's get started. If you're performing at a high level, you know this. If you're aspiring, you're learning this. Each day, you will need to make choices that represent either pain today or pain tomorrow. It's not a matter of if you will feel the discomfort and face difficulty. It's a question of when. For example, how about the time on your calendar reserved for outreach? Do you allow the impulsivity of avoiding what's uncomfortable in the moment dictate your decision-making and find other actions to prioritize? Or do you have the awareness to remind yourself of what you risk and gain down the road by staying consistent and true with the discomfort of the present moment and sticking with the scheduled prospecting? Again, it's a choice. If you want to be a high performer, pain is inevitable. The only question is when you'll experience it. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Every day you avoid asking meaningful questions, avoid prospecting consistency, or avoid the temporary discomfort of doing hard things, you're creating exponentially more pain down the road. Procrastination builds. It's not static. The more you push things off, the more your brain knows you are falling behind. This cycle leads to an intense version of both scarcity and attachment, adding even more anxious weight to your overall sales performance experience. Today, I'm going to discuss 3 things. 1, how to strengthen your decision-making when you're faced with doing the hard work. 2, how investing too much into the friend zone is another example of choosing easy today and difficult tomorrow. 3, I'm going to introduce a new concept, the relationship and difference between pressure and perspective, and how competency creates the wrong type of pressure that actually works against you. Lastly, before we get started, a quick and kind reminder, your help is needed. Our ask will only take you 2 minutes. Breaking Sales is officially in the running for the 2025 People's Choice Podcast Awards. If this show has challenged your thinking or shifted your approach to sales conversations, we'd be honored to have your support. Your vote will help people find us and benefit from the information that we share here each and every month. Just visit www.podcastawards.com. Again, www.podcastawards.com between now and July 31st and nominate Breaking Sales in the following 2 categories. 1, business category, and 2, the Adam Curry People's Choice Award category. Thank you. Let's get started. All right, today we're going to talk about 4 themes in this particular episode today. They're all very real right now based on either what I'm going through as a professional and what a lot of our clients are going through right now. So the first theme we're going to discuss is the idea of to become a high performer, there's either pain today or pain tomorrow, and we're going to get into that. So in other words, either you're going to feel discomfort in the moment today, and you're going to accept that discomfort, or if you don't, you're going to feel discomfort tomorrow. We're also going to talk about what it means to reframe relationship selling. We're going to talk about a really cool theme called it's the difference between applying pressure or creating pressure with your prospects or creating perspective with your prospects. And we'll get into that. And then lastly, we'll wrap it up a bit with why do your prospects have an innate tendency to disqualify your expertise versus qualify it? Not an uncommon topic. We've talked about it in the past, but I'm going to bring all three of these themes together today. So let's get started with the pain today or pain tomorrow. Look, if you want to be a high performer, there's going to be discomfort. There's going to be some difficulties. There's going to be pain. It's really a matter of just simply choosing which one. There's the discomfort, right, of taking daily actions that are often hard to measure and require risk, whether it's prospecting, right? Whether it's how you start your meetings and conversations, whether it's your COIs, whether it's how you're using AI, whether it's asking really good questions or how you're using your calendar as an asset. There's so many little things each and every day that you have to do that do require some form of risk because you're not used to doing them, or maybe at this moment in time, you're not good at them. That's the pain of today. But the bigger pain is the regret down the road. Because when you avoid doing those actions today, right, when you avoid the pain or the discomfort or the uncertainty of those actions today, what you're creating is regret down the road because you could have and should have done better. So, right, there's the temporary pain of grinding through the task or the ongoing pain down the road because you lack a sense of fulfillment because right, you could have done better. And so, giving you an example, right, let's think of one in particular, right? What's a skill you'd like to improve? I know a very common one is this idea of, right, being very social, the friendly zone, right? The friendly zone is the zone where you just get energy from people, you connect well from people, and you're able to just mesh with another person quickly. But a lot of times what we find is this is also what causes you as an individual, if you are that friendly type of person, that relationship type of person, you're not so good at asking great questions. So think about it. How many times in a meeting, right, do you find yourself hoping or anticipating that prospect likes you, right? Or how many times in a meeting do you find yourself seeking validation from that prospect, right? That they're accepting you, your intellectual property, your expertise, or you as a person, right? You're looking toward that prospect for something outside yourself, hoping that there's some kind of social connection, some kind of approval or acceptance. Or maybe even how many times in a meeting, right, are you distracted by thoughts of that social connectivity or connecting with that person, and you're not really listening to what the prospect is sharing, right? All of these things, right, they impact your focus, your listening, your ability to ask great questions. The chain reaction is you get really good at small talk, trying to leverage a connection, and you get good at sharing your expertise. You end up winning deals that have the long runway. I can't tell you how many times I've been around folks that they say they're relationship sales and that their runway for closing a deal is 3, 4, 5 years. Doesn't have to be that way. Sometimes it will be, right? Not one size fits all. But I got to ask you, if you fall into that category, is that what you're telling yourself to make yourself feel better? That you have a long runway. That's just your style. That's just your approach. And you're doing that versus getting better at asking meaningful questions, right? I understand, right? Meaningful questions, the ones that cause you a little trepidation, that's the short-term discomfort I'm talking about, right? Pain today or pain tomorrow. When you avoid the tough questions, the meaningful questions, you're creating more pain for yourself tomorrow. How many times do you leave a meeting, right? Maybe you think to yourself, darn, why didn't I ask that question? You're in the parking lot and you say, crap, I should have asked those questions. Or you do a debrief, and you're thinking, shoot, I didn't ask those questions. That's an example of You avoided short-term pain in the meeting by asking some powerful questions of the prospect, but you felt the pain later and the discomfort later when you realized there was a lot more key learning you could have done. So think about relationships. Maybe the place you start is maybe redefining what it means to be a relationship sales professional or have a relationship approach. Redefine relationship. Because again, as we'll talk about here quickly and shortly, the key thing to be a great consultant is to be able to help that prospect create perspective. In order to help that prospect create perspective, you have to get good at asking questions. So in order to get good at asking questions, let's think about relationship. Maybe how you define that relationship needs to change. So, right, family. Family is a relationship that you can trust, right? Friends are relationships that you enjoy. Teammates are relationships that you collaborate with. Clients are relationships that you service. How about prospects? Maybe prospects are relationships that you help, you guide, or maybe even coach, right? You help guide or coach prospects to make the best decision that they can for their business. How would that change your approach in those relationships? Again, I'll repeat it. Maybe you define prospect relationships as relationships that you help, you guide, or you coach them to make the best possible decision they can for their business. And it doesn't include you yet. What if that was your mantra going into your sales calls, and you knew that that was one of the number one objectives of that call? If you go back a few episodes, you'll remember regarding closing, Pam and I talked about this. We talked about the importance of that phase one in a consultative conversation, which is this something? Is this pain, this challenge, this opportunity, this issue that this prospect is experiencing, is that something that's worth the prospect's time right now trying to solve or improve? That's that phase one. That is your responsibility in that relationship. You're giving them the greatest gift you can by asking them the meaningful questions to help them decide that. Here's another powerful way to look at it, and I've already mentioned it. It's called pressure versus perspective. Think about your own experiences when you're debating change. All right? Even right now, I'm talking to you about this skill set called questions, asking great questions. And I'm doing it within the realm of the high performance understanding of either you're going to accept short-term pain today or you're going to experience long-term pain tomorrow. Part of that is your ability to ask great questions. Can you deal with the discomfort of getting better at asking questions? The challenge will be is as you debate this opportunity to get better at asking good questions, if you feel pressure, outside pressure to do it, are you really going to commit the work? Are you going to take the risks? If someone else is pressuring you to make a change, how do you typically respond? Do you resist? Do you push it off? Do you embrace it 100%? More than likely you resist. That's just human nature. When we feel pressure, especially outside pressure that causes us to feel the pressure within ourselves, we resist change. However, what if someone took an approach to help you with perspective? They helped you gain perspective as you worked through evaluating and debating the idea of getting better at asking questions. They spent their time helping you create objective perspective on what do you gain if you get better at asking questions? What do you risk? Which experience are you going to enjoy more? The idea of feeling pressure as you debate change or gaining perspective as you debate change? My gut is all of you are going to decide on and choose the perspective. It makes you feel like you're the one that's deciding. It gives you ownership. That's the value of it. That's the power of it. So think about it with your prospects. Your prospects feel pressure when you actually lead and you prioritize with your competency. So when you're in those meetings and you're in the friendly zone, you are more likely to debate to your competency or expertise because it's easier. But that's pressure for your prospects. It's not perspective. It puts your prospects in a position to have to assess and judge your expertise through the lenses of their biases, right? How do they know that you have their best intent in mind? Here's some of the things that they're probably asking themselves. When you lead with competency, that is pressure. They will ask themselves, how do they know my situation? They haven't asked me any questions. Or that might have worked for their other clients, but my or our situation is unique and different. It's the same thing you do when you feel pressure from someone to make a change or do something different. You will assess and judge what that person is sharing with you through the lens of biases. It's when you have a cup of coffee with me and you don't know me at all, and I'm asking you questions about your performance, and you tell me that you'd like to get better at asking questions. And then I immediately jump to exactly how you can solve it. I tell you what you need to do, how you need to do it, what your mindset needs to be. In that moment over coffee, because you don't know me that well, are you listening to me to qualify or disqualify me? More than likely, you're listening to disqualify me. Just because it's easier, right? As soon as you can disqualify me and my competency and my expertise, you're off the hook. You don't have to do anything different. Let's dive a little deeper, all right? This idea of perspective, all right? Perspective is incredibly powerful. This approach does not prioritize your competency. It highlights your questions, right? Your questions help that prospect reflect, think, and debate. That's exactly what you want them to do. Because remember, their natural instinct is to push back on change. Their natural instinct is to disqualify you, even though you might have the answers to the test for them. So we want prospects to reflect, think, and debate. We want them to think about, hey, is this a problem I should spend more time on? Or what do I risk if I don't spend time on this? Or what could I gain if I do spend more time on this? We want them to think about, hey, how would this align with or fit with my other priorities, the other things that my team and I are working on? We want them to think about that, especially while we're sitting in front of them. We want them to think about how do they feel about the experience or the opportunity to get better or solve. How do they feel about the potential to create something new and different? We want them thinking about, could there be roadblocks? Could there be barriers? The idea of helping your prospects gain perspective could be one of the most powerful skill sets that you start bringing into your conversations. It aligns and fits perfectly with that phase one of consultative conversations that Pam and I talk about, which is your first objective is to help that prospect determine if what they're experiencing needs to improve, and is it worth their time and effort trying to improve. That's phase one. Perspective helps your prospect through that. And it helps your prospect potentially lower their biases and become more objective in that process of gaining perspective. Because you have to remember, right? If I go back to the beginning here, either you're going to feel the pain or the uncertainty or the discomfort of getting better at helping your prospect gain perspective through questions, which is very short term, and you will get better. But there's going to be discomfort there, right? With the anticipation that you're able to close more deals long term. So, right, the idea is embrace the short term discomfort at trying to get really good at asking meaningful, powerful, tougher questions to help your prospect gain perspective so you can avoid the long-term discomfort of missing your number, right? Not hitting your goals. You got to also try to remember is, and I've already mentioned it, is your prospects and human nature is we spend our time trying to disqualify new ideas versus qualify them, right? Our natural instinct is to avoid the pressure of change. When you wake up in the morning, right, do you immediately look for things in your life that you can change? When you wake up in the morning, you search for control and safety. It makes you feel better. But perspective, if you think about it, if we can change our perspective, it gives us the strength to embrace the pressure of change. That's the beauty of it. When you wake up in the morning, again, you're not looking for change. You're looking for control and safety. However, what if there was a mechanism that helped you reframe your perspective? Would or could that give you the strength to embrace doing something different each and every day? And the answer would be yes. Remember, high performance, there's always going to be discomfort. It's just a matter of where do you choose to experience it? Do you choose to experience it on a daily basis so that you can avoid long-term discomfort? Or do you choose to experience it long-term so that you can have easier, stress-free days? When you wake up, you avoid change. Discomfort, all right, is not hitting your numbers. It shouldn't be about avoiding doing the hard work, the grind, or taking risks. If you can learn to embrace the short-term discomfort and get better at asking questions, all right, you're going to lessen the discomfort you feel long-term. You can use this same example with prospecting, right? Do you prospect each and every day? Do you stick to the time you put in your calendar, whether it's 6 hours a week or 10 hours a week? Or do you push that time off? Or do you find other things to do with that time? You know exactly what happens. The more you push off prospecting, the longer term effect it has on your pipeline, the longer term effect it has on your ability to hit your numbers. And here's the last part, right? The longer term effect it has on the anxiety that you feel in that journey. The more you push prospecting out, the more anxiety that you feel and the more it builds long term. Versus, what if you just learn to accept the anxiousness, the hesitancy, or the uncertainty of prospecting each and every week, however you choose to do it? You will eventually create that pipeline, and that pipeline will support the goals that you have. That pipeline will support the financial outcomes that you want. You will feel less discomfort down the road. This is a big topic because halfway through the year for many of our clients, and it's just becoming more and more evident regarding those who chose to avoid short-term discomfort each and every day in the last 6 months because the stress they feel now going into third and fourth quarter has maximized, has doubled, versus those who embraced the pain or the discomfort in January, February, March, and April. They're starting to experience that wave, that feeling of success, that fulfillment, that they're on target and on track to hit their goals. And so halfway through the year, right, it's not too late. Now, I don't know how you save this year, and maybe you can't, maybe you can. But what you can do right now is start building at minimum toward next year. So each and every day, each and every week, remind yourself, are you embracing what you need to embrace today and each and every day so that you can hit the goals that you want to hit 6, 9, and 12 months down the road? So again, the themes today were, if you are seeking to become a high performer, right, there's always going to be pain. It's a matter of which one do you choose. Do you choose it in the short term or do you choose it in the long term? It's there. Number 2 is the idea of relationships, right? Going back to the relationships, right? There are family, those you can trust, friends, those you enjoy, teammates, those that you collaborate with, clients, those that you service, and prospects, those relationships that you try to help, guide, or coach them to help them make the best possible decision for their business. That's relationships. We also discussed the idea of pressure versus perspective and how perspective is everything. As a sales professional, if you can get good at helping your prospects gain perspective, you will close so much more business because you are helping that prospect think, reflect, and debate more objectively. And then lastly, we've talked about this idea, and it's very human, it's very innate, how we as human beings innately will disqualify new ideas. And so leading with competency or expertise, because it's easier, all right, actually puts you behind the 8 ball. It's all about asking questions and helping that prospect, once again, gain perspective. Thanks for joining me today. Good luck, good selling. I hope this episode challenged you to think differently about where you're choosing to experience discomfort. It's a time to get clear on where you are headed. Revisit how you use your calendar and strengthen your ability to remind yourself how each moment of discomfort needs to be embraced because it means you're actually moving forward. The decisions you make each day to do the hard work should not be debated through the lens of how you feel in that moment. They should be assessed through the vision of what you want to achieve, create, and experience down the road. Some valuable, important future state. And remember, your prospects are no different. Help them avoid making decisions based on the discomfort of the moment and help them gain perspective on how the decisions impacts where they're headed. What do they risk or gain down that road? Before I leave you, I want to thank you in advance for your help in nominating us for the 2025 People's Choice Podcast Awards. Finally, remember, choose your discomfort wisely.